So, you want to become a successful real estate agent in Dubai? Well, you're not alone. Thousands of agents enter the market every single year, but only very few actually make it. And the ones that do, they don't just hustle harder. They follow smarter, proven paths with real positioning, strategy, and consistency. I'm Aidan Doyle, and in this video, I'm breaking down the exact steps that help me build a real estate brand that works. One that drives inbound leads, closes big deals, and compounds over time. Over the last 2 years, I've built a brand over 13,000 followers. I've posted over 1,000 videos distributed on all different social media platforms. I've sold over 70 properties, and in the last 12 months, I've made more than 3 million dirhams in total commission, all while building a brand and a system that works for me 24/7. This isn't theory. It's the real framework that you can start doing today. Let's get into it. Firstly, make sure you choose the right brokerage. The first decision that you're ever going to make as an agent when you come to Dubai is probably the most important one, and that's your brokerage. Not the one that offers the highest commission split, not the one with the nicest offers, the right brokerage for you. The one with strong leadership and coaching. A clear product focus, whether it's off-plan, secondary, or an area just like myself. Systems in place to help you learn faster. And a culture where people are actually closing deals. And most importantly, a brokerage that helps you scale your leads flow through marketing, because you can't always rely on the old school methods of cold outreach. If you're surrounded by people who aren't winning, you'll eventually play down to that level. We all know it's true. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your standards. Pick the right brokerage, or you'll just make succeeding even harder for yourself. Secondly, you need to find a mentor. Once you're in the right room with the right people, find that one person that you want to become like. Not necessarily with 20 years more experience than you. It's actually more important to find somebody who's only 2 to 3 years ahead. Someone who's closing deals on a daily basis, who has a brand and a presence, manages the clients like a professional. Now watch what they do. See how they operate on a daily basis. Offer to help them, learn from them, shadow them. Do whatever it takes to instill their standards into you and the right mindset. And most importantly, layer your personality into it as you grow as an individual. Mentorship isn't about advice, it's about your proximity to success. And it's exactly what I teach my students in my coaching program. When they come to me, when they feel like they haven't got any guidance or any process to follow, and they want to learn how the top 1% operate on a daily basis, but they don't know who to look up to, they don't know who to surround themselves with, they just need to get closer to success. And that's something that I offer. If you're interested to know more, follow my private page. I'll plug it in the caption below, Agency with Aidan, where we pull back the curtain how I operate on a daily basis and how I've got from where I was 3 years ago in your shoes to where I am today. And if I was to do it all again, what would I do differently and what would I do the same to make sure that you're on the right path to success? The third most important thing is picking your niche. Here's something most agents skip, and it kills the momentum. They try to sell everything to everyone. And I get it when you're new. You get your hands on a bit of stock, you get your hands on a buyer, you want to run around chasing that deal. But if you want people to remember you, refer you, and trust your expertise, you need to pick a niche. There are 4 ways to niche down in Dubai real estate, and we're going to break them down here in this video. Firstly, it's an area focused. Just like myself, I am known for Arabian Ranchers 3, and I have been for the last 3 years. People come to me because they see me as an authority in that area. They understand that I know the product very well, and they understand my reputation in the community that I sell. They see me as a key person of influence, and they would rather go with me than somebody on Property Finder who they've never spoke to before. The second one is to be developer focused, such as specializing with Imar, specializing with Shoba, Maras, so on and so forth. You can pick a developer, or you could pick maybe 3 developers who you like to work with and you know their product inside and out. You become the specialist for that product. You make sure that you're the first one to know when them new launches are, and you know everything about them. You make sure you network and mingle with the right people in them developer offices, and you are remembered for selling that product. It's not just about being remembered from the buyers, but it's also about being remembered from the developer as well, ensuring that you have the right contacts in there, because contacts are everything. And unfortunately, if you focus on too many developers, you just won't have the right relationships with the right people, because you just won't have the time in the day to build the relationships with every person in every developer. So pick your niche and stick to it. The third one being property type. For example, you could specialize in off-plan, secondary market, waterfront properties, so on and so forth. Make sure you got that niche down as well. And the fourth being demographic focused, or whether that's you just work with the expats who have moved from the UK, living in Dubai, and you double down on that niche. But whatever your niche is, make sure it has the most TAM, T-A-M, total addressable market. If you can master that, you'll be successful. You don't have to limit yourself forever, but in the beginning, make sure you plant yourself in a niche. People need to remember you for something at the end of the day. What you want to achieve is becoming that go-to person within that niche. To be honest, I can't remember the last time I had to make a cold call. I mean, sounds bad, but arguably, I've got too many leads to handle. When people know exactly what you do, then they know exactly when to call you. Always keep this in mind. The riches are in the niches. The fourth point to becoming a success in Dubai real estate is you need to learn your product. Now it's time to become the best at what you do and becoming irreplaceable. Every day you need to study your niche, and it's a never-ending process of learning. I still learn my product daily today. Let's say you specialize in a villa community or a townhouse community. Well, you need to know the floor plans, you need to know every single type, why one window is positioned in this one, however this next door's window is positioned that way. There's so many crazy things that you might overlook, which become so important and separate you from the rest when you actually show this knowledge over the phone to a client or even in person on a viewing. It's a never-ending process of learning, and at times you'll learn things on the job, things that you realize you didn't know until you're there in front of the client and you pick it up there and then. There's a few things that I'd keep in mind, like which communities offer the best entry points, which developers are consistent with delivery and their quality, what payment plan will look like for that development, what are the average price per square foot in that area, how are those units performing on a resale and the rental market, and this is just service level stuff. You can go so much deeper, and the deeper you go, the more the client is going to respect you. You have to learn it to the point where you become an advisor, not just a real estate broker. Because if a client asks you, should I buy into Al Garf or Arabian Ranches 3? Or can this villa yield me 7% net if I rent it on short term? And what are the ongoing costs? And what are the service charges? And so much more. You better know the answer, because if you don't, then your client will leave you there and then, and they'll find somebody who does. The more knowledge that you have, the more confidence that you have. The biggest issue that brokers face is they lack confidence, especially on the phones with sellers and buyers, which makes sense when you're new, but it doesn't have to be that way. And if you appear not to know your product, then you'll be perceived as a beginner and you'll be associated with buyers that you just wouldn't want to deal with. Unfortunately, in this market, the buyers who are the wealthiest are usually the easiest buyers to deal with. They don't negotiate on fees, they won't try and mess you around, they know exactly what they want, and they want facts and figures. But if you're perceived as a newbie, then unfortunately, you're going to be left to deal with the clients that you just don't want to deal with, and neither do the brokers who are at the top of the game. So you can't get yourself stuck in that phase. You need to break through it as soon as possible, and it all begins with perception. Because again, perception is often interpreted as a universal truth, meaning what you need to do is you need to become confident within yourself, which stems from knowledge. Confidence then turns into perception. Perception then turns into higher quality clients. Higher quality clients turns into either more commission or just easier deals to close in general. And it all stems from learning the product. Another problem is most agencies will give you the surface level training and tell you to start calling people and you'll automatically get better. But that's not always true. What I'm telling my students in my coaching program is to spend your time learning, studying the product that you want to sell. Stop jumping here, there, and everywhere and hoping that it will work. Hoping that you'll find a needle in a haystack and it will make you a millionaire, because that's not how successful real estate agents operate. Then, when you have enough knowledge, you can start doing the practical work, like calling the clients with the confidence because you have the knowledge to back that up. You can handle the objections. You don't want to burn the bridges with clients that you're going to do future business with. Maybe it could have been one of your biggest clients ever, but you burnt a bridge with them a year or 2 years prior when you were a rookie and you didn't know what you were talking about. The agents who win are the ones that know the product like their second language. It becomes second nature to them, not just for today, but for 3 years from now. And that is how you close. The fifth point to becoming a success in Dubai real estate is to start building a brand. Now, once you have the real product knowledge, don't just go on camera for the sake of it and talk absolute nonsense. Make sure you're giving value to the camera as well. Let people know what you do and all about what you sell. There's no better way to get your name out there than producing content, but make sure the content is intentional and it's valuable. And no, You don't have to become a TikTok influencer with millions of followers, but you do have to have influence. Because if you have influence in your niche and you have influence over the audience that you want, you'll be able to sell through these online platforms. There's no point in having followers with no influence. There's no point in having views or likes or comments with zero influence. What matters is the authority that you have, becoming the key person of influence for your target audience. Because in 2025, attention is the new credibility. It's no longer about who you know. It's all about who knows you. Let's break it down. As a newbie, start simple. Don't overthink it. Share your insights on your niche. Break down what you've been learning, explain your mistakes, explain your wins. People like to see a bit of vulnerability and who you really are as a person. Just make sure you're talking to camera at least once a week. Share stories online, whether that's personal or work related, and let people get to know you. And this is what I've done exactly to build my brand to where it is today. Even if it's not perfect, consistency will always win. It's very easy for people to know you. I know many people, and it's very easy for people to like you. In fact, it's a little bit harder for people to like you, depending on who you are. But the hardest thing to crack is getting people to trust you. But as soon as they do, you've won. And that's how you build an inbound business. Instead of chasing leads forever, doing cold call outreach. Because who wants to do that? Point number 6, you need to position yourself as an advisor. Becoming an advisor, not a broker or a salesman, this is where the shift happens. Because the best agents don't sell, they advise, and the sale happens naturally. Your job isn't to push listings or send brochures or whatever the new project launches just because you're chasing commission. Your job is to ask the right questions, understand the client's needs, ask the right questions at the right time, because it's not always about what you say, it's about how you say it and when you say it, which is all the nitty-gritty stuff that real estate companies just don't give you from the get-go. You know, I deal with many students on a daily basis who face the exact same issues. They know what to say, but they just don't know when to say it, and they can't compose themselves, and they spill the beans, or they just give too much away, or they don't ask the right questions. It's really about understanding how to position yourself to ensure that you piece this deal together. And just knowing what to say at the right time can be the difference between you making the deal or losing the deal. You need to make sure that your clients get what they need, which is not necessarily what they want initially. And that defines you from being a broker to an advisor. The broker will sell the buyer on what they inquire on, what they think that they want, but the advisor will actually tell them, no, this isn't for you, and they'll go out and source the right product for their needs. And to do this, there's a very simple framework that I follow, and the framework is MAN, M-A-N, motivation, ability, need. Now, without one of them, you won't sell. With all of them, you'll do very well. To be an advisor, you need to understand what the client's motivation is. If a client's not motivated to buy, then they probably will never buy, and you're gonna waste your time. So that's the most important thing, because as an agent, you need to value your time so preciously. You need to protect your diary like a fortress to ensure that you only spend your time with the clients that matter. So motivation being the most important. Secondly, it's their ability. What do I mean by ability? Well, their ability is how are they set up financially? Is their funds in the country? Do they have a bank account here? Are they a resident here? How much are they willing to spend on a property? How much have they already got access to? What's the liquidity? Do they have other investments? What's their ability financially? And then thirdly, is their need. Arguably, one of the most important as well. Now, the need could be something so silly as having a downstairs bedroom in a property. No matter what, if you've done everything under the sun, you could have a property that's a 4-bedroom, all 4 bedrooms upstairs, and you could have another property that's a 4-bedroom with 1 bedroom downstairs. Now, let's say this family have elderly parents who struggle to get up the stairs. Then their need is that they need the downstairs bedroom. Otherwise, they just won't buy that product. There could be so many reasons why that has a better selling point, but the fact that it doesn't have a downstairs bedroom is what's stopping them from making the purchase. No matter how lucrative that deal is, if you're not triggering the need in the client, then you're never going to close with them. Hence why it's so important to set out this framework from the get-go. Understand these 3 things from the first call with your client. I also see need as a non-negotiable. It's another way to look at it. Make sure you're asking the clients, what's the one thing you're not willing to negotiate on? Now, needs could be all sorts of different things, right? Because if their non-negotiable is the downstairs bedroom, then they're probably going to spend an extra 100K for that, right? But if their need is their budget, then they're not willing to sacrifice their budget. What are they willing to sacrifice? Are they willing to sacrifice the view? value, the location, the corner unit. There's so many different aspects that you can look at. What's willing to negotiate, what's not willing to negotiate, understand the need, understand what's not a need, and then you can work around that to ensure that you find the right asset for them. Because this is one of the most important things when it comes to negotiating and closing the deal. You can work around what's needed, what's not needed, and what they're willing to sacrifice in order to close. Because you can't have everything at the end of the day. Point number 7 is you need to over deliver. Now, this is not just during the deal or when you're trying to make that commission. It's even after the deal. And arguably after the deal is more important than during the deal. Because most agents, they disappear once the deal's closed, once they've been paid their commission, which is the biggest mistake that you can do. If you want long-term success, then you need to stay present and provide the same level of service to the client after the sale that you did during the sale, if not better. You need to help with the handovers, you need to help with recommending services, you need to stay in touch, you need to track how their investment performs, and so on and so forth. Maybe even if they're not going to rebuy with you or resell with you, which might be a possibility, but just for the pure sake of them speaking good about you to other people. Because in Dubai real estate, everybody knows somebody who's looking to buy a house. And that's just the facts. It's a small city. Word will spread quickly on good things about you, just as quickly as it'll spread about bad things. So make sure you're on the right side of that scale. And that's what turns one deal into a referral chain of multiple clients because they speak to their friends, their family, so on and so forth. Most of my biggest clients actually came from multiple referrals from one single client. Why is that? Because the biggest clients, they don't inquire through the portals. They inquire through relationships and people that they trust. If you do somebody a good service and they tell their friend who's a whale in the industry buying loads of property, well, they're going to trust their friend's judgment more than they're going to trust somebody on Property Finder. It goes for their friends, their families, and so on and so forth. And I'm sure you experience the exact same for you. No matter what it is you're buying, service or product, if your friend puts you onto it, you're probably going to trust their judgment and go and buy it without even researching into it. Lastly, and arguably the most important, is once the sale's done, you need to ask for referrals. Asking for referrals is simple, especially when you've done a good job. However, you'd be surprised how little people do it. They feel ashamed to do it for some reason. But for me, asking for referrals has been one of the biggest drivers for my success. And I'll never be ashamed to ask for a referral because I know how good of a service I've just given, so I can justify it. So if you feel like you've given good value, then why not ask for the referral? You can make it really casual. Like, don't overthink it, you know? 9 times out of 10, you can just say something along the lines of, hey, what's the chance you know somebody who's also looking to make a purchase in Dubai? That's it. 9 times out of 10, they're going to know somebody who's looking to purchase in Dubai or is even considering it. Be like, look, I'd love to help. They're probably going to spend hours and hours flicking through listings online anyway. How about we just connect, and if anything comes of it, I'm happy to help you out. Just ask them to make the introduction and maybe create a group chat on WhatsApp. It's as simple as that. It takes 5 minutes. And if you provided value, then they're going to want to give back to you. They're going to feel like they owe you one. Most importantly, make sure when you do say it, you say it with confidence. Because if you say it all timid and unsure and really hesitant, then they're going to see that right through. And they're going to be like, well, does this guy even deal with referrals? Like, is he experienced in the market? Like, they're going to question the way that you're asking for a referral is a little bit weird. But if you say it with confidence, it sounds like you do it all the time. And this is just a common practice. Say it consistently, and I guarantee it will be the highest ROI ask in your whole business. So let's wrap it all up. If you actually want to become successful in real estate, especially in Dubai, you need to choose the right brokerage, find a mentor/coach, pick your niche, learn your product inside and out, build your personal brand, position yourself as an advisor, over-deliver after the sale, and ask for referrals. This isn't theory. This is an actual framework that built my own business over the last 3 years. And if you want help scaling as a real estate agent in Dubai, I've launched a program, as I mentioned earlier, where I've coached a small group of agents directly on a one-to-one basis, where I've made impactful changes in their business and how they operate, and it's generated them hundreds of thousands of dirhams in commission in the last few months. Now, I'm not showing you how I did it in 10 years, I'm showing you how I did it in 3 years, because I know exactly how you feel. I was in your position only 3 years ago. And I didn't have anybody to look up to and tell me, look, Hayden, if you just done A, B, C or X, Y, Z, and you'd be able to achieve all of this freedom and all of this fortune in the space of 2 to 3 years time. In fact, if I had that, probably would have done it in 18 months. The fact of the matter is, I've learned the lessons, I've been in your shoes, and I'm happy to share my journey and pull back the curtain. Just drop me a DM on my Agency with Aiden page. It's a private Instagram only for my coaching students who want to scale. You can drop me a message request and I'll reach out to see if you're a good fit. That's all for today. The Successful Real Estate Broker Playbook. I'll see you in the next one.